Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Think Future. My name is Chris Calabucas, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep, deep, deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking innovation startups, the future, not necessarily those, and not necessarily in that order. If you're watching on YouTube, smack that subscribe button and hit that bell so you'll be notified when new show comes online. If you're listening on your favorite podcast service, please subscribe and please drop a note on Apple Podcasts. I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Now, for some reason, we're not going to talk about AI today. I don't know why. Maybe I should just change the name of the show to thinkfuture.ai. Actually, that's not a bad idea. I should see if that domain is available. We're going to talk about change management. Change. See, I believe that there is no such thing as the steady state. Everybody thinks that in project management, there's this mythical land called a steady state where nothing changes. And I'm like, nah, there's no such thing as a mystical land where nothing changes, because life is change. Everything is change. So when I hear a term like change management, I think to myself, change management? That's just life. Life is change management. So it depends on what change management is. And I think change management as a term in and of itself is a science. I mean, it's great, but the fact is that it's not really managing change. We can't really manage change unless it's change that we've created. And that's really what change management is about change, is managing the change that you personally have created, or trying to create a change within an organization. And you're managing how that change is communicated, how that change occurs, timeline of that change, who's involved in the change, yada, yada, yada. But I'm more concerned with outside change, because change happens all the time, every day, in every way. Everything changes all the time. And we all have to be ready for change. So I think when it comes to change management for ourselves, it's not really change management at all. It's change surfing. And maybe surfing is not technical enough word. Maybe I should come up with a more technical word. What's a technical word for sort of surfing? What's the technical word for taking things, when things come at you in certain ways and you have to hit them and deal with them at different angles, and not really try to do anything about it, because the change typically is something that is so massive. Well, not so massive, but it's so like you can't do anything about it. The change is occurring, and it is so huge that there's no possible way that we can do anything about the change. It's kind of like when we're sitting on a tectonic plate and it's shaking. We are ants on top of this plate. There's nothing we can do. It's kind of like what I say about sustainability and climate change, is that we are basically nothing to Mother Nature. It's a scale thing. If the planet decides to erupt or start shaking or quaking, or volcanoes or storms or whatever, there's really not much we can do about it. It's a question of scale. Human beings, we swarm around this planet, but we have very little effect on this planet simply because of scale, right? I mean, it's like, how many ants does it take to take down a fully grown human being? Unless they've got some kind of special kinds of poison, then they'll never do it. So here's the thing. When it comes to change, when it comes to most of the change that occurs to us during our life, it's typically things that we can do nothing about. There's nothing we can do about this change. And this is why I keep pushing resilience over planning, because change is always occurring. Life is change. Change happens all the time. There is no such thing as a steady state. If all these things are true, then the only thing we can do is deal with change as it comes. We cannot stop the change. We can try to predict the change. We can try to imagine what changes can occur, but because it's so open-ended, it's almost impossible for us to imagine what changes can occur. And this is the thing that people were talking about, where AIs can defeat human players in Dota 2 and these video games. And sure, They can defeat human players in video games, but not in the open world because there's just too much information to be known in the open world for it to occur. In a fixed, closed system, it's kind of like that 10,000 hour rules. In a fixed, closed system with specific rules, yes, it is possible for AI to figure out how to beat human players in this limited space. But when it comes to the real world, when it comes to the outside world, when it comes to reality, we're not there yet. And AI may be there at some point, but it's farther. It's much, much further away. And even with all of these advances in AI and ChatGPT, etc., see, we're talking about AI again. I wanted to talk about change, and we're talking about AI. Change happens. Change cannot be stopped. The best thing we can do is learn how to react to the change. And do we react to the change by freaking out? Do we react to the change by trying to push back the change or make the change something more palatable or see if we can do something to change things in a different way? No, we can't. Change is change. Change is change, and it happens outside of our purview. We can't do anything about it. The only thing we can do about it is decide how we're going to react to it. And if we can decide how to react to it, then we know how we're going to deal with it. And if we deal with it from a standpoint of understanding that there's nothing much we can do about the change itself, all we can do is react to the change, then we can work on what's within our purview, which is our reaction to the change. So we need to just focus on that. So don't get pissed off about the change. Don't get angry about the change. Don't think about how you could make the change different. Just understand that the change is what it is. And all we can do is figure out how we react to the change. We have full control over how we react to the change. See, that's the thing, is that human beings, we always have issues in situations where we feel powerless, right? We feel like there is nothing we can do about it. And it's true, there's nothing we can do about the change itself, but we can, and we have full control over our reaction to the change. And we can react by running into a corner and crying, or we can react by taking it in stride and surfing on the change. How are you going to react to all this change? And it's happening faster and faster and faster. We need to be able to build that core of resilience so that we can react faster and faster to all these changes happening quicker and quicker and quicker. I'm sorry, folks, but this is reality. The reality is that change will always be with us. And right now, it's accelerating, so we need to be able to deal with it faster and faster and faster. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.